You don't deserve fancy things. My mother-in-law who lives with me threw away all my clothes, cosmetics, bags, shoes, and all kinds of accessories. As I stood aghast, looking at the empty closet, she continued, You married into my family, correct? And yet you still rebel in those flashy clothes? How many times have I told you to dress more modestly? You need to be punished. Stay in your underwear today. Hurry up and take your clothes off. Then get on your knees. I had no choice but to take off my clothes and kneel on the floor in my underwear to avoid irritating her, who was yelling at me with a bright red face. The flooring was horribly cold and made me shiver. When I was about to apologize to her, I'm home. What? My father-in-law Ken, who had been out, returned at an unexpected time. Witnessing the bizarre scene, he sniffed. Rachel, why are you almost naked? Because I don't deserve clothes. What the hell? He slowly turned with trembling shoulders to my mother-in-law and shouted, My name is Rachel. I'm a 35-year-old housewife. My husband Josh and I live in a rented apartment in a suburb. I met him through a mutual friend 5 years ago, and we started dating. We broke up once, but got back together and finally married last year. He's 2 years older than me and has a job that requires him to travel often. He's sometimes away from home for half of the month. I was planning to keep my job after the marriage, but he strongly desired me to be a stay-at-home wife. I love fashion and beauty as I worked in the apparel business before. I still enjoy them even after I quit working. My hobby is to research and come up with a style according to my age. Fashion excites me. It brightens my mood and gives me confidence in myself. Josh used to compliment me on my style before we got married. If I wore new outfits, he noticed right away. If I changed my hairstyle, he flattered me. I loved him for being sensitive and kind. His parents were also very nice to me. We lived in the same neighborhood and sometimes had dinner or enjoyed trips together. They were considerate not to bother us, the newlyweds, and kept a just about right distance from us. I got married later than my friends, but I was content with the family I married into. One day, both of my in-laws got sick at the same time. They said it was just a cold, but I was worried that something unforeseen may have happened, as they were over 70 years of age. I wasn't the only one, but so was Josh. After our discussion, I went back and forth between my place and theirs to take care of them until they were better. I'm very sorry for your trouble. It must be tiring that you got your own things to do at home beside our care. Thank you for bringing us such a delicious-looking dinner. Please don't mention it. Josh and I want you guys to get better soon. It's not troublesome at all. I was being honest, as their house was only 10 minutes by walk, and I just prepared a little more food together with my dinner anyway. You're so kind and dependable. It'll be perfect if you and Josh could move in with us. He mentioned as if he was talking to himself. Then Judy scolded him. Hush, don't say such a thing. She and Josh just got married. Of course they want to live alone. Right, Rachel? When Judy put me in the spot, I smiled vaguely and let it slide. I wasn't comfortable affirming it boldly, but it wasn't like I detested the idea. I didn't have my own parents. They passed away after another when I was small. I was raised by my maternal grandparents, so I had a kind of longing for parents. Because my chance to take care of my own was stolen, I had the desire to do so with my in-laws. If living together was going to give them peace of mind, why not? When Josh came back that night, I brought up the idea of moving in with his parents. He was more on board than I had imagined. I totally agree with you. They are getting old, so I feel better to know you are with them. Also, I've been worried about leaving you alone while I'm away. If the three of you are together, all my worries are gone. The day after we discussed, preparations began for us to move. When we told the in-laws this, they rejoiced. They set up our bedroom in no time and made the house ready to welcome us anytime. We planned to move in with them when our lease was up in a month. The month flew by as I packed and I went around to say goodbyes to my close neighbors. Welcome, Rachel and Josh. We are so happy to finally have you guys here. On the day of our move, Josh and I were greeted by their cheerful smiles. Thank you, Judy and Ken. I'll be glad to help you with chores, grocery shopping, and whatever you need. As soon as I said it, Josh said, and I'll work hard for you guys. Then continuing as he remembered, oh, by the way, I have to go on a business trip the day after. It's for 3 weeks, a bit longer this time. Take care of Rachel, Mom. We decided to celebrate the first day of living together with pizzas and wine. The day ended full of joy. A couple of days later, Josh left for a 3-week business trip. Normally, I felt lonely being left alone, but not from this time on. My in-laws were with me. I immediately decided to be useful and enthusiastically started my chores. I ran the washing machine for starters and vacuumed. Then Judy, who had been out, came home. Ken was in his room reading a book. Hi, Judy, how are you? After I finish with the laundry, I'll make some lunch. What would you like to have? As I asked her, she looked around the room. Then she opened her mouth. Rachel, you have to clean better than this. You're a housewife, so there's no excuse for cutting corners. If you can't do better, you're a failure. I was stunned by her harsh tone, which I had never heard before, that I couldn't say anything. She gave me a side eye and started watching TV on the sofa. After that, her behavior changed completely. She monitored how I cooked and cleaned, and gave me detailed criticism, and began to lecture her own theory of what a wife is. Her generous and gentle personality turned tense and scary. I thought I had somehow offended her, but when Ken was around, she went back to being sweet as before. Observing the way she was, she seemed to choose places and situations to change her behavior. I suspected bullying then. My suspicion was confirmed by an incident. One morning, when I got up and opened my closet to dress up, I noticed a few of my favorite dresses were missing. In addition, a bunch of makeup that I always used was gone. I always put it in the same place, and I didn't remember taking it anywhere else. When I asked Judy if she had moved them, she gave me a surprising answer. Hey Judy, have you seen my dresses and makeup? They were gone when I woke up. Oh yes, I threw them all away. And by the way, I sold some accessories. I only got a couple of bucks for them though. Do you have any problem? Why did you do that without asking me? She shook her head and gave me a cold stare. You know, you are just a housewife in this house. A housewife has no business caring about fashion. You are not allowed to wear those flashy clothes. Dress more modestly, got it? She snapped at me and then, if you understood, go prepare breakfast now. She ordered and walked out of the room. Those were my favorite dresses that I bought after saving my paycheck when I was single. If they were already thrown away, never mind. I couldn't get over it easily, but I must live with her for a long time. I was going to pretend to be submissive in the presence of her eyes. I changed into the plainest shirt and jeans I had on hand and headed to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Judy nodded in approval at the sight of me. From that day, she began to rub me the wrong way even more. I was asked to do various things in addition to my daily chores, such as weeding the garden, washing the car, and accompanying her for shopping. I sure wanted to be helpful, but not if she was giving me a hard time. I was annoyed, so I pretended to obey her, but used my savings to buy cosmetics and clothes from my favorite brand. Knowing that if they were found, she would throw them away again, I put them in a box which was placed under bed. It had been 3 weeks since Josh left. He was finally coming back that night. I thought to pick him up at the station and go for dinner. I asked Judy for permission. Is it okay if Josh and I went out for dinner tonight? I'll sure prepare something for you before I go. That's a good idea. You should go. You don't need to make anything for me. It'll be nice to have something other than you cooking once in a while. I thought there was a little sarcasm mixed in, but permission was granted anyway. Excited, I prepared to go out in the hustle. It had been a long time since we had a date night. The new dress I just bought was great for the occasion. I was all fired up and dressed up perfectly, and then snuck out of the house without being seen by Judy. Ken seemed to be out as I hadn't heard his voice. He was probably going to eat outside, so I didn't have to worry about his dinner. I was thrilled and headed for the station where Josh was getting off. I waited for his return in front of the exit gate where many people came and went. It kind of reminded me of the nervousness of the first date. Then, after 10 minutes of waiting, I saw Josh among the crowd. I waved my arms to let him know I was there. He noticed and came running up to me. I was thrilled to hear him compliment me on my new clothes like he used to do. Hi, honey. How was your trip? What would you like to have for dinner? As I was asking, his face frowned. He looked like he was upset. What on earth are you wearing? I bought it recently. Isn't it nice? When I pointed to my dress, his face turned red as he yelled at me. I'm asking why you are dressed up like that. Didn't my mom warn you? Wear simple and modest outfits. She told me I was just a housewife, so act like one. You know, getting dressed up is one of my few hobbies, and I don't dress particularly flashy. I'm wearing what's within the boundary. There's no need to be so uptight about it. Besides, you like the way I dress, don't you? He raised his voice louder to my objection. What my mom told you is what I agree with. If she tells you to dress a certain way, it's the same as if I told you. Why don't you get it? I finally realized then. Judy threw away my clothes on his instruction. I still didn't understand what his intentions were, but I understood why she suddenly became so demanding. I don't get it. You always complimented how I dressed before we got married. He sighed in exasperation. That was before. We are married now, and you are my wife. It's a different story. You married into my family, so I need you to look and act accordingly. It was too late to tell me that. When I was at a loss to say anything, he grabbed my arm. Anyway, let's go home now. We need to talk about how a wife should be. I could not make a fuss in the public, so I decided to follow him quietly. The word divorce crossed my mind for a second, but it wasn't realistic. I didn't have a job, and the savings I had would have been only enough for moving. I just had to be patient. Josh and I drove home in silence. When we opened the front door, we ran into Judy, who was just in the living room. She was holding a large clear blue garbage bag in her hand. I looked hard at it and realized it was full of my clothes, makeup, bags, shoes, and other accessories. I ran into my closet, which was empty. Nothing was left in it without exaggeration. Plus, the new clothes I had hidden away were gone. My shoes had disappeared completely from my shoe rack. I can't be too careful around you. This is a punishment for rebellion. If you can't obey us, just wear your underwear. This is way out of the line. It is not acceptable. I forcibly snatched the garbage bag from her hand. Josh grimaced at me in his rage. Hey, don't be rough with her. Whose money are you living off of? If you still resist, I'll throw you out. That being said, I had no words to retort. It was true that he took care of me. When I couldn't refute the fact, Judy got carried away. Take all your clothes off and get on your knees. If you apologize, we'll be easy on you this time. I couldn't make a living if I got kicked out, so I reluctantly took my clothes off and got on my knees. The flooring felt cold against my skin. When I was about to apologize, Ken happened to come home. Judy blurted, "You're already back?" in a funny high-pitched voice. She thought he was coming back at around midnight. He froze for a moment at the bizarre situation and then asked, "Rachel, why are you almost naked?" "Because I don't deserve clothes." I didn't know what else to say. He mumbled, "What?" in confusion. "You know, she's my wife. She needs to learn her position. For that, those fancy clothes are a nuisance." He's right. This is necessary for her to learn. You tell her too. Ken groaned loudly and covered me with the jacket he was wearing. Then he put me up by hand and stood on his ground, shielding me from Judy and Josh. What the hell are you guys thinking? A position of wife? This is no other than abuse. I'm fed up with you guys. I want a divorce. You too, Josh. Never come to this house again. Understood? Both Judy and Josh thought that he would be on their side, so both of them were stunned with their eyes wide open. Why divorce? No way. I don't know how to live if you divorce me. I'm very sorry. I won't do it again, so please forgive me. Dad, do you mean you want to disown me? Please don't. I'll apologize, okay? If you kick me out, I have to find a place and start paying rent again. Both of them pleaded with Ken. He rolled his eyes in disgust. He scolded them that they were apologizing to the wrong person and looked at me. Then Judy and Josh got on their knees and apologized to me. Of course I can't forgive you guys. Even if I divorced and can't make a proper living by myself, it's 100 times better than living with you. They both lamented. Oh no. I was able to file for divorce afterward, with the help of Ken's financial support as his apology. It wasn't his fault, so I declined his offer at first, but decided to accept it after he insisted adamantly. He and Judy also filed for divorce as declared, and the house was put up for sale. He said he would use the money to move to a more rural area and live at his leisure. Judy was left penniless. She was planning to live with Josh, but Ken didn't allow it. He thought if those two stayed together, they conspired to do harmful acts. Judy turned to her relatives, but the rumor of her abusive behavior was spread among them. They were disgusted with her, and she was left alone. She currently works as a daily worker and is living by day in a small apartment. It must be unbearable for her now, as she had been living a comfortable life. As for Josh, who was disowned by Ken, actively looked for a new wife. In order to get an ideal wife this time, he went around preaching how a wife should dress to all the women he met from the beginning. As a result, all had turned him down. No surprise. He now leads a lonely life, only going back and forth between work and home. In this day and age, no woman will ever match his ideals. I wonder when he would realize that. I moved far away with the money I received from Ken. Although there were several years of gap, I managed to find the same kind of job I used to do. I have a modest but fulfilled life. How happy I am to dress the way I like with the money I earn. I will live freely without letting others dictate my life from now on. I vowed to myself.
My mother-in-law burned my passport in front of me right before the family trip, but she started to shake when she finds out.
My mother-in-law took my passport and set it on fire. The passport burned fast and eventually turned into ashes. Now, you can't go on vacation to St. Bert's Island. What? Why? You are a stranger, so you'll be staying here. Too bad. I guess they had planned this all along. My mother-in-law and husband are grinning at me. I was absolutely mortified at the despicable way they were doing it. Well. I knew they were planning something stupid. I had thought about it just in case, but I have never imagined that they would be so sneaky. They looked at me with triumph, gave me a sickening giggle. Then I told them the truth. My name is Tyra, 29 years old. I studied linguistics at the university. After graduating, I had been expanding my knowledge of the world's languages and cultures and sharing it with the world. The organization I belong to sends me abroad to do various activities. Once I'm sent abroad, I don't come back for a few months. When I first started this job, I honestly thought the marriage was out of the question for me. But when I returned to my home country at the age of 26, I met Corey, who later became my husband. I would only see him for a few months at a time, as my job required me to travel back and forth from one place to another. Once I'm assigned, I wouldn't see him again for a few months. In the meantime, we continued to exchange phone calls and emails. 2 years passed in this way. When I was 28 years old, we got married. A year after we got married, I still spent half of the year abroad, so my husband and I are still separated. I am grateful to him for choosing me to marry me. I am on my way home from the airport right now. Today is the first time I can see my husband in 5 months. I should be tired, but my steps back home are light. My walking speed gets faster. When I arrived, my husband wasn't home yet, so I started cleaning up the mess. I always tell him to keep the room clean, but it's quite messy here. Normally, this would be the cause of a fight, but today I can forgive him. After all, I'm going to see him for the first time in 5 months. I am in the middle of cooking when I hear the front door open and my husband comes out in the living room. I rush over to him. Corey! Welcome home! Good to see you, hon.
Oh, hey, Tyra. You're home. This is supposed to be today?
What? Is that all you can say? We haven't seen each other for 5 months.
Alright. But we've been living like this for a long time, so I'm used to it.
What? Can you at least say you missed me or something?
Right.
I'm tired.
Anyway, is dinner ready?
Yeah, just finished cooking it. Let's eat. Eating with my husband for the first time in months is the most delicious meal in the world. Normally, I would be satisfied with that. But this day, I felt a little different. Hey, Corey! Why do you keep looking at your phone?
What? What's wrong with that?
Nothing is wrong, but I'm finally home, you know? You've been looking at your phone, and you haven't talked to me at all.
We've been communicating by phone and emails all this time, haven't we? There's nothing new to talk about now.
That may be true, but it's been a long time since we've seen each other like this. So why? I'm so angry at my husband's attitude that my tone of voice is getting stronger. It seems like that comment triggered my husband's anger. He stood up, put his phone on the table, and glared at me. You know what? You were just on a plane, but I'm tired from work. Got it? Whoa! Wait a minute! I jumped on the plane right after work too. And you talk to me like that?
I didn't ask you to do that. You just rushed home on your own.
What? You don't have to say it like that. I missed you, you know?
I'm just saying I didn't ask you to come home. If you're going to be like that, don't come back at all. You're annoying, Tyra.
He slammed the table and got up with a bang. He left the living room without even touching his dinner. What's the matter with him? Why did he talk to me so coldly? I haven't seen him for a long time. Was I the only one who was happy to see him? What's the point of rushing home? Tears streamed down on my cheeks and dripped onto the table. The reunion with my husband had turned out to be even more sad than I had imagined. The next day, his attitude did not change. When I said good morning to him as soon as we saw each other, he gave me a cold stare.
I envy you, you know. You can just laze around at home all the time while you were over here.
No, that's not true. I have a lot of work to do, actually. Like summarizing our activities and looking over materials for the next training session. There's a lot to do, more than you know.
Either way, it's something you can do at home. I'm really jealous. You get to spend half the year like that. I wish I had a cushy job like that.
Hey, You don't have to put it like that.
Well, I'm just a company man, so I gotta go to work. You relax here, princess.
What the hell? Hey, Corey! Ignoring me, my husband left the house. We had a few fights before our marriage. My husband had never been this sarcastic to me. But this was the first time I was so confused by his words and actions. I wondered if my husband's words were holding me back. I was thinking myself if there was anything I could do to help the situation. While I was reading work-related materials, I decided to clean the house. As I was vacuuming the room and changing the beddings, my phone rang with an incoming call. I checked the screen and there was my mother-in-law's name. With a bad feeling, I answered the call. Hello? Tyra here.
Long time no see, Tyra.
I heard you're back.
I heard you came home yesterday.
Yes.
And I heard you said something bad to Corey. He was quite angry.
I'm sorry, but it's nothing that would bother you, you know?
Well, listen, I've been thinking, since you're here, why don't we go on a trip with the whole family?
What? I couldn't help but let out an unexpected sound. Without my response, my mother-in-law continued.
Actually, I was just talking with my husband about going to St. Bird's Island.
And then Corey started saying he wanted to go with us.
What?
So,
Tyra, you're used to going abroad, right?
I wonder if you could help us with hotel reservations and stuff.
Me? Or maybe you can't hear what your mother-in-law is asking you to do.
I feel my mother-in-law's voice getting colder. She doesn't really want to travel with me. I know that. She just thinks it would be more convenient for her, since I'm used to traveling abroad. I knew my mother-in-law did not think well of me, because she had been sarcastic toward me ever since we first met at the wedding reception. It's been a year since we got married, and it's still the same. I often received messages from my mother-in-law while I was working abroad. How can you be a wife and be away from home for months at a time? If you don't take care of the house, I'd rather have my son marry another woman. It was a mistake to allow him to marry a woman like you. That's what my mother-in-law used to text me. So I didn't have a good feeling when I got the call. But I never thought I would be taken advantage of for a family vacation. However, maybe it is better than being verbally abused as usual. I was angry at myself for not being able to say no, even though I knew I was being taken advantage of. A few hours later, my husband came home from work and was in a better mood than he was in this morning. He threw his briefcase on the sofa, and with a big smile on his face, he calls out to me.
Mom called you, didn't she? We can take you on a trip to St. Bird's.
Yeah, I heard. But you know...
What? You're not thinking of turning it down, are you? Mom asked you to come with us.
I know, but why don't you just go with your mom and dad, like you originally planned? As soon as I said that, my husband's eye changed. He clicked his tongue and his attitude changed to one of intimidation.
You need to learn to read between the lines.
The only time you'll be of any use to us is when we go abroad. You don't have to talk like that.
It's true, isn't it? Anyway, you book all the flights and accommodations. And as you probably know, everything should be under my name.
What? Corey, you are going to pay for the whole trip?
What are you talking about? You and I will split it 50-50. It's a small price to pay to show some respect to our parents.
What is that?
If you've got time to laze around at home, make a reservation now.
No, this is wrong. I don't want to.
What are you mumbling about?
My husband took a beer out of the fridge and drank it down in one gulp. I have so many things on my mind, but I don't know what kind of repercussions I will receive it if I rebel. I felt ashamed, but I had no choice but to do as my husband and mother-in-law told me to do. I made all the arrangements for the flights and accommodations for the trip to St. Bart's, just as my husband had told me to do. On the day of the trip, I was going to pick them up at my parents-in-law's house and go straight to the airport. And just a few days before our trip to St. Bart's, I couldn't sleep, and when I woke up in the middle of the night, my husband, who was supposed to be next to me, was not there. I went to the living room and heard his voice. Apparently, he was on the phone with someone.
Oh, it's okay. It's all okay, Mom. I'll be there first thing in the morning as planned. Mom, please do the passport thing anyway. Seriously, I am looking forward to it. I'll make sure to introduce her to you when I get back.
I felt a little stuck on some of the things he said. Passport? Introducing her? He said Mom, so I'm pretty sure it was my mother-in-law on the other end of the phone. There's definitely something going on between my husband and my mother-in-law. In the first place, it didn't feel right for him to ask me to go on a trip with him. What would they do to me if I went to my parents-in-law's house? I don't know all the details, but at this point, there's no other way to be sure. I decided to take the utmost precaution until the day of the trip. And then came the day of our trip to St. Bart's. I got into the car with the carry-on case and my handbag that my husband had asked me to prepare. I packed my husband's personal belongings in the handbag, and he and I headed for my in-laws' house. Our trip to St. Bart's was about to begin. Whatever is in store for me, I have to take it. I walked into my in-laws' house with my husband, determined to make the most of the trip. We were greeted by none other than my mother-in-law.
Oh, hi, Tyra. You're here.
Hi. It's been a while.
Good to see you. We're almost ready. I'm going to grab a few things for the trip, so you'll have to wait a little longer.
Okay. Take your time.
Oh, and Tyra, could you bring the carry-on case from the other room? It's heavy, so please do it with Corey, okay?
Okay, got it. I did not miss that moment. My husband and mother-in-law exchanged eye contact. My passport was in my pocket, just in case. At my husband's urging, I carried her carry-on case and went into the living room again. And there was my mother-in-law with a smirk and a worried smile on her face. She seemed to have the passport in her hand. She's holding the passport and fluttered it, grinning. Now, you can't go on a trip to St. Bart's. What do you mean? I'm going to burn this passport right now. What did you just say? I was only using you for the trip arrangements in the first place. What the hell are you doing?
You are a stranger, so you'll be staying here. Too bad.
My mother-in-law went to the kitchen and lit the passport on fire with a lighter. The passport started to burn from the corner. Eventually, it ended up with the black ashes in the sink. When my mother-in-law saw that the passport was completely burned, she said to me, "We did it! And my husband jumped up and down with joy.
Yeah, Mom, we made it. Now, it's just the three of us on this trip. We'll be able to meet Corey's new girlfriend when we get back, right? Yeah, I've already arranged that. We don't need this useless woman anymore. That's my son. You know when something is not working. He took his cell phone out of his pocket, showed me some pictures. Seems like they were the pictures of him and the woman he had been having an affair with. He looked down at me with a triumphant look on his face and said, I am not divorcing you for the sake of my reputation, but you're staying here during our trip. When we come back, I'll move in with her, and you can go away. Taking my husband's line as a cue, my mother-in-law began to laugh vulgarly. The look on their faces was nothing but evil. At the moment, I knew for sure that I didn't deserve to be a part of a family with these people any longer. I grinned and said to them, By the way, whose passport is that? Huh? What are you talking about? Of course it's yours. I took it out of your handbag. So it's your passport. I am so sorry. My passport is right here. What? Why? It can't be. I took my passport out of my pocket and flashed it in front of her. My mother-in-law saw this and opened her mouth as if in a panic. That's not possible. No, this is my passport, for real. See? My mother-in-law must have sneaked into my handbag and assumed that the one passport in it was mine. How could she burn it without checking it, even though she was planning to do something evil? Wait, whose passport did I burn then? I guess it was my husband's passport that was in there. So, this means that it was your son's passport that you burned earlier. Unfortunately, at these words, my mother-in-law turned pale and started shaking. My husband started to blame her mercilessly. Hey, Mom! What have you done? I told you to be careful. I only found one passport in her handbag. You would think it would belong to her. I don't give a shit. You didn't check. That's why this happened. You're saying it's my fault? If you had checked from the beginning, I wouldn't have made this mistake. What the hell? The next thing I knew, they were blaming each other. I was beyond angry and disgusted at the sight of them. Hey, Tyra, do something. My husband started yelling at me, but I was not to be outdone. Seriously? Where do you come off telling me what to do? You cheated on me behind my back. How dare you? You and your mother are both disgusting human beings. Hey, who do you think you're talking to, Tyra? I'm talking to you and your stupid mother. You don't think I'm gonna let you get away with this, do you? I'm telling you, you're going to pay me back exactly what you owe me. I'll make sure you pay for the affair and all the abusive words your mother gave to me. So be prepared. Then my father-in-law came down from upstairs. What's going on? What are you doing? When I told him everything, he was furious about what had happened. The trip was cancelled, and my mother-in-law got a divorce. My husband was disowned by his father and never allowed to come home. I consulted a lawyer and divorced my husband. In addition, I demanded alimony from him and my ex-mother-in-law. They had to pay alimony in one lump sum. Corey also had to pay for the cancellation of our entire trip to St. Bart's.
They are the type of people who don't make savings. Of course, there was no way they could pay the alimony in one lump sum. In the end, they managed to repay all the money by borrowing money. Now, my ex-husband lives with his mother, it seems like. I heard that they were just barely making ends meet. And my ex-husband was also dumped by the woman he had an affair with. I, on the other hand, have moved out with their alimony money. Now I rent a condo and enjoy living alone. Cheating and bullying. I went through a lot of hardships before. But now, I am free from all of it and enjoying my life. I want to continue to go to various countries and learn about their cultures. And I want to share it with the whole world. Thank you for watching till the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video.
My mill forced me to sleep outside on a family trip. When she returned home, Karma was waiting.
What? You were going to stay with us? I didn't make a reservation for you. My mind goes blank to hostility. We're on a family vacation, which I didn't even want to go to in the first place, to a fancy hotel. My husband pretends not to be aware of her animosity toward me and walks away. We'll see you at the checkout, Emily. They leave me behind and disappeared into the luxurious hotel. My name is Emily. I finally turned 30 this year. I'm a stay-at-home mom living with my husband Spencer, my mother-in-law Kate, and my son Sean, who turned 3 this year. Spencer and I met on a blind date 7 years ago and ended up marrying. We've been living an ordinary life without any big quarrels and are known to be a couple very much in love among the neighbors. 2 years after we got married, we had our son. Spencer was busy with work, but he actively helped me with childcare. I had no complaints about him. We were living in a normal family environment, but after the birth of Sean, it started to deteriorate. 6 months ago, my father-in-law passed away, and Kate was to move in with us. The last time I saw her other than at the wedding was when Spencer and I visited her to announce our engagement, so it had been a long time since. My first impression of her was not a very good one. My father-in-law, on the other hand, treated me kindly and gave me a very good impression. Spencer, are you sure she is the right woman for you? I'm worried she is going to give you a hard time. I remembered she blatantly spoke her mind. Spencer tried hard to make her accept the marriage, but the way she looked at me was not very nice. We managed to get her approval after some persuasion from her husband and Spencer. I still think that she shouldn't have openly made such remarks in front of me to this day. I was worried if we could get along once she moved in with us. I tried to be positive and switched my mind to do my best with her. When she and her belongings arrived at the house, I helped her unpack. She was very kind to Sean, who turned 3 years old. While she took care of him, Spencer and I unpacked. I asked him to take care of the heavy stuff and I organized the small things. The unpacking went smoothly, and there was only the small stuff left for me to do. This is supposed to go over here. I wonder what kind of education you went through. It was a fake plant that could be put anywhere. I put it there to improve the atmosphere of the room, but Kate pointed it out to me. Although I was displeased with the way she reacted, I tried to think she was just particular and moved it to the spot she wanted. She looked after Sean for a little while and started watching TV without offering to help me. I didn't even have time to pay attention to him, but she scolded me to watch him. I had my hands full with him and unpacking, but I couldn't ask Spencer, who was taking a rest after carrying heavy things, to help me out. I finished tidying up with mixed feelings. I tried to think that she was feeling unsettled about changing her living environment, and pushed away my frustration for her. After that, her criticism continued every day. One morning I woke up early, prepared breakfast for all of us, and tried to take a rest. "The house is messy. If you have time to rest, clean it up." She never gave me time to rest all day long. While she always criticized how I did things, she was hardly ever at home during the daytime, let alone doing anything herself. I was getting mentally strained by such a life. I decided to talk to Spencer about her.
"She must be having a hard time since Dad's gone. Take it easy on her."
He wasn't any help. Even though he knew how she treated me, she didn't intervene. I used to put my hands on my forehead in bed and drifted off to sleep in despair every night. Regardless of my feelings, my 3-year-old son cried at night. Unable to bear the fatigue and sleepiness, I couldn't bring myself up, and Spencer rushed to his side. Kate must have woken up by the noise and shook me violently. "How are you still sleeping when your son is crying? How can you leave it to Spencer? It's a woman's job." She yelled at me for being exhausted and unable to move. I didn't want to make things worse, so I quietly got up and went to Sean. I ended up getting no sleep that night. Spencer was off that day, so I was thinking about what to cook for lunch. "Spencer is off today, so I will make something." Kate started preparing. When she put the meals on the table, one plate was missing. It looks like one portion missing." "I made it for Spencer, who works hard, and my grandson. Of course there's none for you. Make your own." I was absolutely mortified. I had been wondering if she was bullying me, but it became clear at that point. It wasn't that I had been unaware of it for a long time. I couldn't stand her without thinking that she was just being hard on me to make me a better wife. If I didn't think that way, I would have broken down. I couldn't talk back to her, so I confided in my friend after I dropped off Sean at daycare. "That's definitely bullying. How are you holding up?" I told the details to my best friend from childhood. She listened attentively and showed great concern that I finally broke down in tears in front of her. I had been fighting against my frustrations and suppressing them at home for so long. She encouraged me by saying that I was doing my best and that I would be okay. "I will help you. I will figure something out." We partied as we both had things to do at home. Even though we didn't talk for very long, I felt lighter. There were a couple of things my friend suggested. One was to put a bug in the house and record what was said on a daily basis. I bought a cheap recorder on the way to pick up Sean and then went home. Kate was out as usual, so I immediately set it up in a discreet place. In the middle of cleaning, I picked up a piece of paper that had fallen out of a drawer in Kate's room. When I opened it, I saw a personal loan agreement, and the amount was $20,000. I couldn't believe my eyes, but I thought this might be useful and put the paper in my pocket. After a while, Kate returned, and then Spencer came home just in time for dinner. We sat around the dinner table with the usual complaints from Kate. "Oh, by the way, my friend gave me a discount coupon for a one-night stay at the 5-star spa hotel." The fact that she brought up the subject suggested that she wanted to go. Spencer was very much in favor of it, and my son was also excited. I honestly didn't feel very enthusiastic, assuming it was going to be a horrible experience for me. "Well, since you are here and you are always working so hard, you can come along too." I couldn't believe my ears. I was astounded to hear it from someone who had been harassing me so much. I would think about it. Maybe she meant well. I didn't want to think that she offered with malice. She wanted to book everything the next day. I couldn't sleep that night, trying to decide by the next morning, so I sat on the sofa for a long time contemplating.
About the trip, Sean wants to go too. Mom won't watch him, and it's hard to take him with me alone, so I want you to come with us.
You don't help me when I'm being treated so badly by your mother. I don't want to go. Spencer couldn't say anything to that. Of course, I didn't want to do him a favor while he turned blind eyes to my suffering caused by his own mother. He pleaded with me to join, so I gave him a condition. Just as well, for starters, have a look at this. I found it when I was cleaning Kate's room. I showed him the IOU I had in my pocket. He was stunned with disbelief on his face. He couldn't believe that his own mother had a debt of $20,000.
Can we help her pay this off? As her son, I can't just leave it as is.
He asked me because I was in charge of managing our money. Of course, I declined it. I had no good intentions to help someone who mistreated me. I did understand his feeling as a son, but I could not accept him.
I beg you. I want you to help me with this and the trip.
Only if you accept my conditions. The first was that when Kate mistreated me or over-criticized me, he must intervene. The second was that I was to make a rule for her, write them down on a piece of paper, and post them all over the house. If she could not agree to these conditions, we were going to kick her out. I proposed to Spencer, and he agreed with them. We decided to start this after the trip. I asked my friend to post the rules in the house while we were away. We were to act as usual until the trip was over, and then we would drop the bomb. Spencer agreed to this, and I decided to go with him on the trip. The next day, I let Kate know that I was joining them and kept chanting in my mind to be patient for a little longer. On the day of the trip, Spencer took everyone's bags, and we were about to leave the house. You don't need to carry the bags. Let Emily do it. Kate's bully started right away. He glanced at me apologetically. I obeyed her, thinking it was better not to cause any animosity for what was to come later. The bags were so heavy that it was hard for me to carry them alone. On top of that, I had to take care of Sean. I supposed I wouldn't have any energy left to enjoy the hotel. We took Amtrak a little farther away and then drove over a mountain road to the hotel. Both the exterior and interior were very beautiful and luxurious. Sean was very excited and went to look here and there. Kate looked around taking in the decor and went to check us in at the front desk. Afterward, I grabbed my bag and was about to go to the room. What Kate said then blew me out of the hotel, literally. Were you planning to stay with us? I only made a reservation for the three of us. I had no idea what she was talking about. I was at a loss for words right then and there. The only reason she invited me on this trip was to use me as a porter. She had no intention of letting me stay with them from the beginning. Gradually, understanding the situation, I asked her, "Then, where should I sleep?" "I don't know, and I don't care. Why don't you just camp out in the wild around there?" She asked me to join and then told me I had to sleep out in the woods. Something was seriously wrong with her. I couldn't help but feel enraged. I was about to yell at her, but she and my family disappeared into the hallway. "I will see you at the checkout time, okay?" I stood in the lobby for a while and left the hotel. I knew there was a catch, but I didn't expect to be forced to camp out. I was on the verge of tears. All I got from Spencer was a message saying I'm sorry. I couldn't even bring myself to reply to that. It was past noon when we arrived, so I took my lunch at a random cafe and found an open field where I could see the night view well. As soon as I arrived at the field, I received a call from my friend. "Hey, how's the trip going?" I did what you asked. I contacted her in advance and gave her a duplicate key. I told her what had just happened. She was furious and offered to pick me up, but I declined. I was thankful to her, but I was sure Kate was going to get what she wanted if I had left. I couldn't foresee what she was going to do to me later. After hanging up the phone, I decided to consult a lawyer just in case. I sent him my evidence as I intended to sue her for emotional abuse if she was to be kicked out after the trip. If it was determined that there was no premeditation, I couldn't file a claim, but I had concrete evidence that should have proved it. The lawyer assured me that I could if I decided to. After the call, mental and physical exhaustion hit me hard, and I laid down on the fresh grass. I ended the day in an open field with a beautiful night view and chilly breeze. The next morning, I met up with Kate and my family just in time for the checkout.
Emily, did you stay in the woods? I bet you didn't even clean yourself. You're so filthy.
Spencer tried to stop her, but she quickly changed the subject. By the looks of things, he must have told her that forcing me out was too much. She bragged happily that the hotel was very nice. Sean's smile was my only console on the way back home. When we got home, Kate immediately shouted,
"What is all this? Don't play with me!"
There was rules posted all over the house. She must have read some of them because her face turned red and became furious. Then, Spencer showed the IOU to her, and her red face immediately turned pale. Her mouth was agape in confusion. At first, she tried to deny it, but when he grilled her, we found out that she had been on a spree with her husband's life insurance. When the money ran out, she couldn't stop the habit and borrowed it. Spencer and I proceeded as we had discussed from there. "I can't have someone who has debt living with us. I would ask you to leave. Of course, I have proof of what you have done to me, so I will sue you." I played the recording and let her listen to it. As she listened, her face became white as a ghost, and she begged me to let her stay. I told her that she could stay if she abided by the rule and refrained from aggressive behavior. She eagerly agreed and apologized.
"I'm very sorry. Please help me. I beg you."
I never thought I would ever see her in this state and was very satisfied. When I thought it was finally over, my knees buckled and I fell to the floor. Spencer sat me down in a chair and then started yelling at her about the debt. I guessed his respect and trust for her had crashed down. She must have never imagined that there would be a day when she was to be scolded furiously by her son and frantically apologized. After it was all settled, she kept silent and stared at the sky for the rest of the day. The atmosphere of the household changed drastically the next day. I woke up early in the morning as usual and prepared breakfast. It must have become a habit or just forgotten, but Kate immediately made a nasty remark. What was different from usual was a change in Spencer's attitude.
"Mom, we just talked about this yesterday."
He spoke out in a firm tone, so she choked on her words and went to sit on the sofa. I almost laughed a little at the scene, but I held it in and went back to preparing breakfast. Spencer felt guilty about not being a protector and couldn't stand strong against Kate, who raised him. I knew in my heart that he was a kind man. There must have been something on his mind to turn blind eyes, so I didn't blame him. I really needed him on my side, but I couldn't hate the man I fell in love with. He apologized to me in tears. After that, he started to watch over me, and Kate's attitude toward me improved by the day. She still pointed out some minor things to me, but I didn't feel any malice from her. I hoped she was going to stay like this. I could finally live with ease and keep a healthy mind. The debt payment was $700 a month, and Spencer and I cooperated to pay it back. As Kate was too old to work, I got a part-time job and was balancing work and home. She was responsible for taking my son to and from daycare and was doing a good job. Because of her bad habit, Spencer managed her finances. My family changed it little by little for the better. No matter how much you love your husband, if your mother-in-law is terrible, you might think of divorce. I couldn't bring myself to do that, but if I had separated earlier, I didn't have to listen to terrible remarks about myself and camp out in the field. Fortunately, I found an IOU that helped me rebuild my family. Maybe I was lucky. I'm also grateful to my friend for listening and encouraging me. Without her, I had no one to vent, and for sure, I would have had a mental breakdown. I feel from the bottom of my heart that I must keep cherishing our friendship. Whenever I remember the pain I have been through, I get teary and pat my own shoulder. At least, I have tried my best to hold my family together. Even when I was depressed and had no motivation to cook and clean, I completed my tasks so that everyone can have a decent life. I've tried my best to make sure that my son is not inconvenienced. That's why the sense of accomplishment fills my heart. I may not be able to forgive Kate, but she would always be my mother-in-law. I would like to treat her kindly. A few years have passed since then, and my son has grown up to start preschool. We are almost finished paying off the debts and are considering moving to a new house. Kate has started to help me a little since then. My relationship with Spencer has become better than before, and we are even thinking of having another child. My family is already very stable, and I am very content now. I will continue to do my best for my family.
My mill threw a rotten orange in my face and told me to get lost. My Phil asked who the true rotten orange was.
Do you know the story of rotten oranges? When one of the oranges in the sack starts to rot, the others around it get infected. The same deviations occurs when one evil person influences those around her. The one who just threw a rotten orange at me is screaming, "You're a pest!" Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Don't you think that the person who bites other people's hands off is the rotten orange? That's what I'd like to talk about today. My name is Alicia. I got married a year ago. I'm a 30-year-old who is devoted to work and marriage. My relationship with my husband Ryan is perfect. If my career continues to grow, I would like to have a child in the future. I'm still 30, but already 30. Everyone has their own opinions, and I have mine. I'd like to go with the flow. What are you talking about? Have a baby right away. Women are meant to bear children. My mother-in-law, Carrie, says such insensitive things. Mom, please don't interfere in our marriage. We talk about these things together. Ryan is quick to defend me. Oh no, you're completely wrapped around her little finger. That's what I was against. You married an older woman. She tricks and manipulates you. She sat with a distorted face as if she was biting down on the bitterness. Since you came, my family has been a mess. We were at peace, but because of you, my son has gone crazy. You have ruined my life too. Once her blood rushes to her head, she heats up and loses control. I wish there was a switch to shut her down like a robot. Unfortunately, humans don't have such a thing. If only my father-in-law were here to calm her down. Unfortunately, he's out golfing with his co-workers today. Ryan and I can't handle her well. So, in times like this, enough! Hon, let's go home. Ryan prompts me to leave. Her temper tantrums amaze me every time. I'm sorry, Hon, about my mother. Don't worry, it's nothing new. We've been married for a year and I'm used to it. She and I have been at odds with each other since the beginning of our marriage. Or rather, she's been more hostile to me from the beginning. The first time I met her was when Ryan brought me to his parents' house. She was sitting next to my father-in-law, Ben, with a sulky face. This is Alicia. We met at work. Ryan introduced me and I leaned forward to give a kiss on their cheeks. In contrast to Ben, who was cheerful, Carrie had an irritated look on her face and said, Does she work to scavenge men? It was the first time someone I just met blatantly showed malicious intentions toward me. I was in total shock and had no idea what I was being taught. Mom, how rude! Ryan tried to argue on my behalf, but she was having none of it. It's just not right for a mature woman to marry a man 4 years younger. It was true that I was older, but was it that strange to have an older wife in our society these days? And to tell me that straight in my face was quite rude. That was the first time I realized that my mother-in-law was insane. I was the one who approached her. It was TMI on Ryan's part, but I felt happy and embarrassed. There was an air of awkwardness among us. I glanced at him and saw that he was blushing. Well, Alicia, thank you for taking care of my son. I hear that you are at a manager level and are giving him guidance at work. I'll be counting on you to keep taking good care of him. Ben tried to make me feel at ease, which made the situation neutral, but Carrie's sulking continued. I grew uneasy about marrying Ryan. Even thought Ben was nice. I couldn't understand why he didn't scold his wife for being bodily nasty at his son's fiancée in the first place. It soon became clear though. My mom may not look like that, but she's actually sickly. I was about to retort, no way, but I swallowed and listened. She suffered from migraines and anemia and often needed to stay in bed. Ben had been trying not to rock the boat out of concern for her health instead of rebuking her. I see. It must be hard for him too. Yeah, but don't worry. I'm going to tell her off loud and clear. His reassurance made me decide to marry him. Carrie continued to bully me after we got married. Most of the time it was done over the phone, so that I could be half listening, and sometimes I'd put down my phone and let her rant. There was no harm to me. We didn't live together, so it was nothing to worry about. I thought so. But my head hurts. I have vertigo. Please come over quickly. She called Ryan once a week, usually on Saturday. Ben was often out on weekends for business trips or meetings. She was home alone most of the time. Whenever Ryan received such a call, he would go and check on her. Don't worry, I'll go alone. That will make her hate me even more. I'll go with you. At that time, I was still bound by a sense of obligation to get along with her. She was sick, and I should have shown her a little bit of care. I was thinking positively. Ryan was actually not in the mood to go, so he looked somewhat relieved to know I was coming along. I was also hoping that she would take the opportunity to open up to me a little, however.
What are you doing here? Get the hell out!
When we arrived at her house, she slammed the door shut on me, and I was almost turned away. I thought to myself that she seemed perfectly well, but I kept my mouth shut. Ryan quickly intervened. Mom, you're going to get even worse if you get so excited. Calm down. Instead of listening to him, she became even more agitated.
Be quiet. Why did you take her as your wife? I disapprove of it.
Why did she hate me so much? What is it that you don't like about me? I asked her fearfully.
I don't like your voice, your face, the fact that you're older than him, your ideals, your class, everything. I don't like you one bit.
She denied my existence at once. Enough! How dare you say these things to her? We had plans today, but we came here instead.
You think I care? I didn't ask you to bring her along.
She turned away and went into her bedroom. Hon, let's just go home. But if she can move and talk that much, she must be fine. There's no need for us to be here. Ryan urged me to leave. When we were walking to the train station,
Hi, it's been a long time.
An elderly woman approached us. Oh, it's been a while, Alicia. This is my parents' neighbor. When he introduced me as his wife, she suddenly changed her expression.
So, you're the wife?
Yes, I am. She took a breath and then grimaced at me.
You have to be nice to your mother-in-law.
I don't care how much you don't like her. You can't talk badly about her health and ignore her. It's really heartless, don't you think? Ryan and I were both stunned, not understanding what she was talking about. If we took her words as they were, it was a false accusation.
What do you mean?
Who told you that?
Carrie always tells me in tears that you are spiteful.
I understand that you guys aren't close, but it's terrible to overdo it. It's definitely not her fault that you can't get pregnant, is it? It's your own problem. If you continue like this, you will be punished. I felt my blood boil all at once. I can't believe this. I could not say another word. Carrie had been telling the neighbors lies about me and was having fun with it. Ryan was furious too. Everything my mother told you is bullshit. Please don't believe it. He took my hand and we walked away. What did I ever do to her? Why did she make up those lies? I'm sorry. I'm ashamed to be her son. He seemed to be quite shocked at her deed and didn't say anything more than that. After that, Carrie and I ceased to interact. Ryan became the middleman for all correspondence and went to his parents' house alone. I have to at least show my face. If she's really ill, it wouldn't be so funny. He smiled sadly at me, and I had no choice but to see him off silently. Then came the holiday season. My parents had already passed away, and my sister was living alone at home. We decided to visit her after Christmas. The problem was my in-laws' house. 2 months had passed since my last visit. I still didn't want to see Carrie, but I didn't want to be estranged from Ben, who had always been nice to me. I was agonizing about what to do. Then Ryan suggested, "My dad will be home on Christmas Day, so why don't we just show up for a bit?" If he was home, Carrie might be calmer. Ryan said if she threw another tantrum, leave her to Ben and we could get out quickly, so I agreed with him. On Christmas Day, the unimaginable happened.
Hey, Alicia.
Merry Christmas, Ben. Are you alright? He looked somewhat paler than usual.
Yes, I'm fine. You must be cold. Come on it.
His voice lacked energy too. Ryan and I were puzzled as we entered the house. Carrie was lying down on the sofa in the living room, devouring navel oranges. Without even glancing at me, she irritatingly said,
You're here again. I don't feel good at all.
I sat down in the living room with a bitter smile on my face. Ben brought me a cup of tea.
Thank you, Alicia, for always checking on Carrie.
Oh no, it's only until a while ago. I haven't been able to come here lately. It's been hectic. I couldn't tell him the real reason, so I stammered a little.
Oh, please, I'm still grateful. I'm sorry for the trouble she's caused you.
Ben patted me on my shoulder. Carrie stared at him with evil eyes.
You guys are so noisy. I can't even hear the TV.
She got up from the sofa and shouted at us.
Hey, why don't you show some gratitude too? They came all the way here for us, didn't they?
I asked my son to come. I don't want to see this woman. She began to roughly peel an orange on the coffee table.
Sorry, Alicia. I'm very sorry.
Please don't apologize. It's all right. Ryan and I were a little taken aback by Ben's humble behavior. We remained there for a little while until Carrie suddenly lashed out.
These oranges rotten. It's all your fault, Alicia.
What in the world did it have to do with me? Ryan and Ben were perplexed by her odd behavior. Without a care, she continued.
You are like a rotten orange. You are a bad influence on everyone around you. Even the neighbors are saying that you are a pest.
My patience, which I had been enduring until then, finally snapped. That's because you've been spreading lies about me.
Shut up. Who cares if it's true or not? I can't stand that you're in my life.
It was like a toddler throwing a tantrum, and there was no logic in what she was saying. Don't be ridiculous. Why do you have to hate me so much?
Shut up, you pest.
With a scream, an orange sapphire flew toward me with a whoosh. I felt a crushing sensation on my face, and it fell to the floor with a dumb thought. A naveled orange, peeled.
You are a rotten orange. That's what you are. You have to be thrown away.
She looked at Ben and Ryan and continued her rant.
She talks back too much. Just throw her out and be done with it. I feel sick. What are you waiting for, Ben? Get rid of her.
I couldn't take it anymore. I was such a fool for trying to be good to her. I wiped the juice off the orange splattered on my face with tissues. I thought I couldn't be a member of this family. Ryan and I might have been finished. Such a sense of despair came over me. At that moment, Ben spoke up.
I see. Then I should leave you too.
His voice rumbled.
Agreed. I'm determined to get my mother out of my life now too, Dad.
Ryan followed quietly.
See, I told you.
Carrie misunderstood for a moment that they were going to get rid of me. She seemed to recite the lines in her head and finally understood. She expected that they are going to be on her side, but it turned out to be the exact opposite.
Why did you guys say?
I say, I'm going to get rid of you. You just said throwing away the rotten oranges, didn't you?
Ben? Honey, am I a rotten orange? No, I'm a human being.
She's banging on the table, venting her frustration, but there was no one on her side anymore. I'm going to be blunt. You're the rotten orange in this room. In other words, you are a rotten human being. Had there been a time when Ryan insulted his mother? Sensing something was wrong, she panicked.
What's wrong, Ryan? She's got you all worked up again? I wonder how much of a pest she is.
She was asking for his agreement in a pleading voice. No, Mom, I am her husband. As a husband, I have a duty to protect her. You are no longer my mother for continue to abuse her. I'm cutting you off at all costs.
How dare you say that?
She glared at Ryan and tried to jump on him, but Ben grabbed her. Stop! You're making a fool of yourself! His normally calm face turned grim. She wasn't so sensible that she wouldn't have flinched at such a trivial thing.
Well then, why don't you protect me? I'm your wife. My son and daughter-in-law turn on me like this.
I wanted to reiterate that I'd never done anything wrong to her. Rather, I was the victim. But in her mind, our position was switched. I think I protect you enough. I watch over you so that you don't harm Alicia. Can you even see that? Behind his calm demeanor, there was a wave of inexpressible anger. He had been patient with her for years, decades even. He must have been overthrowing with the feelings that had built up over the years.
What the hell? Are you making me the villain? It's her being a rotten orange that's so blame. Since she came,
She suddenly collapsed. I was stunned, but Ben and Ryan didn't pay any attention to her. What are you going to do now, Dad? Divorce. I'm going to leave this house. She'll be on the street without it.
What? Divorce? What do you mean you're leaving?
The one who supposedly fainted got up with force and glared at us. It seemed I was the only one who was deceived by her acting. Oh wow, you're quite alright. You can live on your own then. She grimaced at me as I commented sarcastically, but our positions were now reversed. I glared back at her more than twice as hard. She instantly looked frightened and became quiet. After that, Ben filed for divorce. Later, I found out that he had been fed up with her for a long time. Although he didn't think about divorce before, he kept a distance and did not argue with her. He even minimized the time he spent at home and devoted himself to his work. Because of this, she became a tyrant who sat and did whatever she wanted. Her tyranny had been directly only at him until I became her target. He felt a strong sense of crisis then. I found out on Christmas Eve that she had been spreading lies about you to the neighbors. I was disgusted to find out that she was such a horrible woman. That was why he looked pale and gloomy that day. The mystery was solved. When the divorce was on his mind, the rotten orange incident happened. That was the last straw for him to make up his mind. She's put you through a lot of pain. Apologizing won't make it go away. No worries. It's you who've had it tough over the decades. When I consult him, his eyes became watery. I was skeptical that he was really capable of leaving his silky wife. She even lied about being sickly. It was all an act. When I heard it, I was really dumbfounded. She tried to gain his sympathy and pretending that she was seriously ill and refused to divorce him on that basis. However, a medical checkup revealed that there was no problem. There must be something wrong with me. Just find it. As she lost her position, she ranted and raved at the hospital. After divorce, Ben turned the house over to her as part of the property division and moved out. He informed the neighbors about the divorce and cleared all the lies she made up. He put everything in order, including restoring my honor. The neighbor who accused me called and apologized to me. The rotten orange incident is supposedly still talked about today. Her neighbors know about her past misdeed, so it's become difficult for her to live there. My husband tells me about Carrie's current life, and I almost burst into laughter. Well, she deserves it, doesn't she? I hope Ben will have a peaceful life after all the trouble he's been through. I do too. I'm happier now, so I'm sure he'd find his happiness too. Shall we go give him a happy news then? I'm gonna be a father too. He took my hand gently. I put my hand on my stomach, which was showing a tiny bump. It felt warm against my hand.